Hi everyone and welcome back to a Twinmotion tutorial. In this new 2025 version, we will be looking at the new camera orbit rig, the smooth camera motion, as well as the camera targets. So let's get started. Alright, let's open up the media in the dock tools here, and traditionally we would have to create a video and start keyframing while moving across the object. Now the issue with this is it's not an exact circular motion and you have limited action on what you're doing. Now in 2025 version, what we can do instead is go to the sequence tab and create a new sequence. This is where we will be creating our orbit camera rig. Click on the plus sign and create our new sequence. Now once I create my sequence, I'm greeted with a action cam by default. Now you can switch that if you go into the three little dots right here and add a orbit camera. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that previous action cam so I get a bit more space in my timeline to work with. And now when I scrub through the timeline, you can actually see the camera rig and the camera turning around the object. Now if I zoom out a little bit, we can see that the radius is slightly too big here, so I might need to adjust the radius. So to do so, I can open the properties panel right here on the right, and I can see that the radius here, I can adjust the values, maybe put a value of 75. Now I'm going to be placing the rig in the center of my object and make sure that everything is aligned and well adjusted. So you may notice that the camera right here is slightly obstructed by this panel. Now I can change actually the start angle of the camera. So I can make it start at a slightly more desirable angle here, and I can do the same for the end angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a half circular motion, pan around the object without any obstruction, just going to rotate the rig ever so slightly. And let's switch over to full screen mode and hit play and see how this is running in real time with the new camera rig. Now the main advantage of this tool is the modularity of it. So for example, I can change the camera focal length here as well as the radius without compromising my keyframes. So let's do a quick example here. I'm going to choose a 35mm lens here, and I can scroll through the animation and I can actually see that it's cropping a little bit here. So what I can do instead is I can go to the sequence and I can maybe adjust the radius just ever so slightly, maybe to 65 or maybe a little bit more to 70. And that way I can still have everything in frame and everything playing correctly right there for me. Alright, switching scenes here with this beautiful chateau property in which I'm going to pan across the chateau here using the action cam and demonstrating the new smooth speed motion as well as the target camera. Okay, let's start by opening the media. Make sure that we're in the sequence tab and create a new sequence. Now this is going to create an action camera for me. And I'm just going to extend the time frame a little bit to have a bit more workspace for ourselves. Now I'm going to start panning across. So I'm going to go to the 4.5 second mark and I'm going to slowly rotate the camera just like this. And I'm going to create my first keyframe. Now let's scroll a little bit more down the timeline and let's create another keyframe just right there. And finally, I'm going to create my last keyframe. Now I'm creating all of these keyframes so that we can jump out the preview mode and see exactly the camera path that we have here in the viewport. Now the spline is displaying the trajectory of the camera that we just keyframed. I can take each of these keyframes that we've done and control them on the spline here, which gives me much more flexibility. Now, if I open up the details panel here on the right, we have access to the different camera easing. Now I can choose between a linear or ease in or a strong ease in and strong ease out. Now notice when I choose a ease in out, the circles on the spline at the beginning of the path are much tighter, and the ones in between are more space, indicating that the camera is going to be faster when there is more space and slower when the circles are tighter. Now we also have the option to play with the path tension on each point, allowing me even more flexibility on my camera animation. Now let's go back to our sequence, and I want to show you one of the features of 2025, which is the smooth speed camera motion. Now let's play our sequence here to demonstrate better, and we can see that the camera is not constant. So we might want to rearrange the keyframes by applying smooth motion. Now this new feature allows you to select a keyframe and automatically smooth the speed. This is going to rearrange the time keyframe so that the camera has a constant speed animation. Now the last thing that we may notice is that our camera is slightly jittery, especially here on that third keyframe. Now this is where we're going to introduce the camera track. I'm going to pick an object in the scene here, and this is automatically going to look at that object, creating a much smoother animation for me. I hope you enjoyed these new features of the 2025 version of Twinmotion, and see you in the next one.